So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to John Cardoso-Silva. I think many of you know John already. He's in the Data Science Institute, and my website's just gone down. Oh, no, it hasn't. So this talk is called A Custom Claude Project Set Up with Time-Sensitive Learning Boundaries.
Great.
Thanks, John.
Thanks a lot, Claire. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and those online. I will need to give you a little bit of background context about my course and what I'm doing, but I will spend most of my time hopefully just showing you the bots that I built for the course, and I hope it gives you a sense for what you can do with Claude. I had a lot of support from Stephen Wins here as part of our AI in Education fellowships as well. So where we are in the course, so we're at week 4 of the autumn term, and my students are working on a practice, which is a formative exercise this week, and based on previous research we've done on Genio, we know that students will use generative AI the most when there's an assignment, when there's a deadline, right? So I knew that this moment is when they will use it the most. I built it such that the course has activities every week, like take-home activities before you come to the lecture. They build up on each other, build up the lectures, assume you've done the prep, you know, the usual pedagogical scaffolding. And when they get to this point, they have to use everything they've learned in the course so far and not anything beyond. Some students, this is a coding course, data science course, some students will already have some Python knowledge and they will be tempted to use the most advanced skills, but also those who are not paying attention will use ChatGPT to get code that does not meet the style and the kind of the level of learning, the level of teaching we're doing in the course. So this is a good example. And I got consent from a couple of my students to show you their chat logs as well of what they're doing. So as part of this assignment, they're using my bot, and I get to see if the bot is being useful or not. So that's the context. They have to do a full data science project for the first time this early in the course. The first thing I'm going to show you, it's not the student thing, but just to show you the capabilities and the kind of stuff that the bot can do. So if I ask something, I gave my students some nudges, like the kind of stuff you can ask Claude. One thing you can ask Claude is help me catch up. So these are outside of assignment, right? So I'm not doing an assignment or anything like that. I'm just trying to understand where I'm at the course. So Claude will give you this summary of what has happened already. So that's what I mean by time aware. So Claude knows exactly where we are in the course. And it tells the student, it asks the student, have you done these things in the past few weeks? Have you attended these things? And do you know that this thing is due this week by 12 p.m.? So he knows exactly what's happening. So let's say I've done everything, and I'm working on my week 4 practice, but I'm still not confident with programming in Python, which is a very typical thing that my students would potentially, I don't know if they would ask that, they're not good prompters, I've noticed, but they would, like this is where they would be. So Claude will further check, and then what would you help feel more confident right now, and they will give them specific practice. So maybe I'll say, help me practice something specific that Claude just mentioned there, for loops. And then if you do that, what Claude will do is, knowing where you are already in the course, it will give you, it will trigger something that I call a challenge, a little challenge. So what is your current understanding? It will do a lot of that until you know, like, I'm pretty big, I'm a beginner. This will eventually trigger once you answer all of this, and then it will create an artifact in real time that will give them an activity that they can interact with, the questions and answers tailored to their responses. So after this whole interview, you give them interactions. This will take a minute or so while I explain to you what's happening. This has I built in all of the, the boundaries and what is happening, and it meets the students where they are, but with a mind of preparing them for what's happening in the course or not. So if they're behind on this, you give them the practice that eventually helps them bring to the week 4 practice, and they can also keep being tested and keep being challenged by the tool. So if you've never used this before, so this is called an artifact. An artifact is essentially a website that is built inside Claude. You can prompt it directly and say, create an artifact for me for this particular thing, use case. Some students are using it to create like study compound interest or summary of courses and many things. So once it does that, let me see if I can open it. It's all live, so it might go wrong. It didn't work, it didn't work. You didn't post it. It did the right thing, but then I need to know that it's done. My students will not arrive at this stage because the other prompt I give them is my apologies, and then it doesn't do it. Go ahead. I would leave that to later when I explain the challenges of working with this, but there you go. Now it's actually working, I think. To get to this point easily without this kind of problems, the student would ask, give me a challenge. That's the first prompt. If they do that, then this is less of a problem. But depending on how you go, this can happen as usual. Let's see if this finishes. While this is running, let me show you how they are using it for the assignment. And by the way, so this is like outside assignments. During assignment, what they're doing is, let's see, I think I have this as a good one. I've been playing as a student before they shared chat log with me, and I was like, maybe that's what they would do. They would copy the entire code, place it there, and get feedback. And that's exactly what they're doing. So this student copied this thing here. This is their code. Help me write a Python code and do this. And this is my instructions, right? So be reassured that they are doing that in your courses, no matter what your position is on AI. My Claude will ask them, what have you tried so far? And you'll point out a couple of things that they got wrong. They got wrong. They need to collect data about London, but they're passing Berlin coordinates. They got the date ranges wrong. The student provides an alternative. This is a new version. And then Claude goes back and says, you're using something that is not allowed. In this course, you've been learning to use this particular library. So I'm constraining the learning of that student to what exactly we want them to study in this course. And then it points them back to where in the course they would have found those particular resources. So Claude could give them something, but it will point out to the places. The student continues, and then it's working well. It's poorly copy-pasted, but Claude understands it. And then everything is correct, and I checked it is correct. And then Claude says, now it's time for you to do the next step in the exercise. Again, it's not giving the student the exact code just yet, but it's asking them to think about, do you want to clip the data, or do you want to save it as it is? And then the student says, I don't need to clip, do I? And I only have the info I need in here. And then Claude explains to the student what is at stake with that decision. So I force that decision on them, like they have to make a decision. The student asks a clarifying question which helps them decide. In the end, the student says, I think I will clip. That is my decision. Claude says, great, so this is how you should do it. Try to put it back on your code. The student does it, which this is a great example of learning with AI, because the AI is giving hints, the student is formulating that, and then the student changes their mind and says, I don't want to clip anymore, that's not what I want to do. And Claude says, sure, fine, your code is working, and then it provides the code to them, but not after a lot of back and forth. And that I don't mind. So like even though it's giving that, the student already provided an initial version of the code, and so on. And that's what not just the student, but all of them are doing. They're copy-pasting all of the content and double-checking and seeing what they do, and I'm finding that it's working really nicely for these purposes. Now we can see the actual thing that I want to show you. So for assignment, that's how students are using it. Like, and I have 3 chat logs here. I can show you if we have more time, but we have more time. But that's essentially how they will use it. If for practicing, reviewing, this is the idea for them, like to have guided exercises based on their activities, on their knowledge. The student has to print out this thing here. So let me pretend that I'm a student that kind of knows what I'm doing, but not quite right. So I could say, for I in temperatures, this is incorrect code, by the way. So I'll show you print temperatures I. So this looks like valid code for a beginner, but there's a fundamental flaw in there. The student will click on get feedback, and hopefully, Claude will give them the right feedback. And it says, good attempt, you're absolutely on the right track. That's exactly what I want to do here. But I can see you're trying to access blah, blah, blah. And then it explains here what is wrong with that code, which the student can later on then just do, I see, I can just try to type, depending on the advice that they would get something like this. So they will this will be the actual solution, one of the actual solutions they'll have there. And you get to repeat the feedback that you get all the time from Claude. You got it absolutely right, and then you keep on going. So there's support for practicing, reviewing, and there's support for assignments, kind of like a marking on the spot. And without overwhelming you with information, I just want you to know that to create that is quite a complex setup. I have I have diagrams if you care about it. So I have, and what I don't represent here just yet, and I'm down to my 10 minutes. What I don't represent here just yet is that this thing here is something I introduced in the first formative. This is prerequisite for this other thing down there. I have links to all of this stuff. I just haven't represented it here because it was too messy. But I do have it on my coding thing. I'm an engineer by training, so I'm very much taking an engineer approach to this. So if you want to know just a little bit more of detail on that, I can show you later. But essentially, I have these whole files here. One for the entire learning, the philosophy of the course, but one for the important one is the skills taxonomy, which is kind of like in programming language that gives you exactly what this skill is, what it tracks, what is the evidence. If I look at a student submission in something, what kind of evidence do I have? Somewhere here, some of them has evidence markers. They'll have like evidence markers. So I will see that the students did this if they correctly print out this thing. So that is how I build the system. There's a lot of prompt engineering here. I also have some tips on how to replicate that to a course, but I still don't know how to fully replicate that to a qualitative setting just yet. But I think it's doable. You just need a lot of time. And that's it.
There's a lot there. So colleagues, let's stop sharing so we can. I can see there's 2 comments online already. So let's see what that says. Is it a requirement? This is Naya. Is it a requirement for students to engage with the exercises through your setup? E.g., they need to submit all these conversations so you can see they got to their output through your prescribed process rather than, say, using another tool or just standard Claude outside your course to get to the answer more directly.
Great question. Thanks, Naya. They can use any AI tool. This is just one that I recommend. And then in the course, what I do is I show them. During the course I show, like, if you use my box that I created, it will still hallucinate, but it knows me a bit better, it knows what we're doing a bit better, to give you some results. But even for this particular formative, at the very first lines are like, you can use any AI tool, even sharing the chat log is optional, they don't need to share. I take a full AI position and everything is take home. I don't think the pedagogics of my course is at risk because of the way it's lined up with the assignments. But yeah, so they can use anything.
Thank you. Other questions, colleagues?
Lots of stuff to think about.
Alice, go ahead.
How much did you have to decide the balance between kind of prompting students to think about stuff and then like directly providing them with information? Because I really like that. It's not the same like, how do I do this? And it says, well, have you thought about it? So
Yes.
yeah, are you always leaning towards getting
The Socratic approach. So yeah, it's always, most of the time, and I've heard from a student last week in a drop-in session that they were using the bot, and they're like, oh, this keeps asking me questions, and then they went to ChatGPT. But this student that I showed you the example, this student, I interviewed him in a way, and they were saying, what I really liked about this is that it asked me questions. And so there are different approaches, different stuff. But the bot will sometimes give answers, sometimes not. But most of the advice everywhere that I built in is to ask questions and think about the logic first, and then ask them to provide. Give me the code that does this that I suggested. Let's see if you can make it. Which I hope you can apply that to like an essay setting where you build the arguments, and then you see if the argument holds up and everything. If it's widely constrained.
John, how much of your class time is spent dedicated to sort of building their engagement with the platform?
Not a lot, because I don't want the course to be about the AI tool, right? Yeah. So I don't do that a lot in the course, but I do, when I send like the weekly emails to them, there are tips, like if you use the Claude bot, here's the link, here's how you can use it this week for this exercise. I show them an example in the course. I only got a lot of buy-in when I showed something interactive. So that little exercise of having the Q&A that is the moment when everyone's like, please add me to the project. And then I have 90 students in this course. I think all 90 asked me to add them there. So it's optional. They decide if they want to be in. And this assignment that I have is not finished yet. They haven't submitted everything. But I saw already 12 of them who submitted have the bot as their
What percent out of the 90? How many said they were in?
I don't know yet.
You don't know
I
until
don't
you
know
get
yet.
the assignment.
All of them are added to the project,
Okay.
but because we don't have access to their direct chat logs, only those who shared with us. Those who shared, I have 12 who shared so far. But the deadline is tomorrow, so we'll see.
Okay, we'll bring you back. Okay, anyone? Sadi?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I ask? I haven't come up with the perfect way to ask that question yet, but you are obviously an expert in AI compared with
Yeah. And I play
80% of the people at the school. So how possible is it, you think, to hope that all academics could incorporate some of your philosophy in their cause, given that for most of them you're not experts?
Yeah. The way I see
I'm going to bring in Kevin's comment, and then we'll give you, you can answer them together in whatever way you like. So Kevin Quito says, what is the utility of this approach in a non-coding
Great.
course? So maybe take both of them
That
at the
goes
same
together.
time.
Yeah. So my current thinking is you cannot do it as a drag and drop approach right now. So I have to do a brain dump of my entire pedagogical philosophy and everything I'm thinking, and it has to be in a particular format. But I'm building this as the course is running, so Steve will know that I'm every week I'm updating the materials and updating and seeing how students are testing by myself as if I was a student. But right now, I think for the past 4 weeks, it has proven so useful that I think I will be able at the end of this process, at the end of the academic term, to come up with a process that it already has a template of a format, and then I can create a custom bot that interviews you, like for your course, what is your pedagogical philosophy? Narrows that down, records that in a file. How do you want this particular, what are the major skills, ILOs? I start with intended learning outcomes.
Yeah.
Strip that into multiple pieces. What is the level that you want to engage this ILO on week 1, on week 3? So if I build a little bot that does that and translate that to the technical language, from what I have right now, I think that's totally feasible. I could start building one for someone next week, And to Kevin's question, I think that would be equally relevant for a non-coding course, for a qualitative course, as long as you're able, if your course is not, if you can reduce it to pieces, if I say it has to be reducible, the course. If everything is a bit intertwined, then I think that would be more difficult, of course. But there's got to be some reduction you can make, otherwise you can't assess students in multiple pieces. So I'm fairly confident, and I have my colleague, Dr. Doris Salai from management, who agreed to test this on her course. So I'm gonna do the interview myself, not the bot, and then we're gonna build it for her qualitative course.
Great, so we're 1 minute over. Thank you, John.
Thank you.